Hello everyone, Zach here from the Carnival of Randomness on behalf of our sponsor, Upsitnik & Associates. In these unprecedented times, we reflect on our future, both in the next few weeks and months, but also the upcoming years and decades. And it's time to prepare for that future. Upsitnik & Associates has been contacted by many healthcare workers, as well as old and new clients, to prepare wills, powers of attorney, and advance directives, also called a living will. All of you need these documents. So don't say you don't have any assets to speak of, no children or other dependents. Regardless of the circumstances now, you will need a will for today and tomorrow. Al Upsitnik feels so strongly about having wills and other needed documents prepared that Upsitnik & Associates can prepare your will, power of attorney, and living will at no charge. You heard that correct. No charge until the end of 2020. No hidden fees or gimmicks. Al feels so strongly about planning for the future at this time that he is willing to assist you with your future. Trust Upsitnik & Associates, attorneys for 42 years, from the Supreme Court to Alaska and everywhere in between. You can find them online, upsitnikslaw.com, on Facebook, Upsitnik & Associates, or call them toll-free 1-866-391-3299 to prepare for your future. Hello everybody, Zach here from the Carnival of Randomness, and this is an odd one. As we talk here right now, we are about, 20 minutes removed from the Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 36-10 and continuing on their undefeated streak to 9-0. And I'm joined by fellow Steelers fan Rye. Hello Rye, how are you?
I'm good. I survived.
Yes, and that's the theme of this one. It's you survived another week as football fans. And we're going to focus, both as Steeler fans, on just that game. But you can look at any team, and all the fans are feeling the same thing. Like poor Bills fans coming, that with the crazy ending to the Bills-Cardinals game. But let's take a look at what we just saw, because the Steelers are now, like I said, 9-0 for the first time in franchise history, but, and this is where I know people are going to look at us funny, if you look at the score, 36-10, you're going to say, oh, the Steelers blew them out. However, you and I both know that there was quite a few things that we can work on for next week.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem, what we were talking about before we did this, was you're not going to be able to do what they did with the running game, especially against a good team. And Cincinnati is just not a good team.
No.
So can you imagine that running game? What did Connor end up with rushing yard-wise?
Let me check. 13 carries for 36 yards, average 2.8.
Okay, so 13 for 36. That's not good.
No.
That's against Cincinnati, who has, I think, the 28th ranked run defense.
Yeah, a lot of those were 1-yard runs.
Well, exactly. 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards. But the fact of the matter is, you're not going to be able to survive against a good team or into the playoffs with a running game doing that.
No, the running game was terrible.
It was. What did Snell end up with? Because he came in when they pulled the starters and actually was running the ball well.
3 carries for 12 yards. The longest was 8.
Okay, so there you go. 3 for 12. That's a much better average than the starter. But, so... And I know people are going to just say, oh, it's being negative. Well, let's focus on the positives for today.
Yeah.
The receivers were catching the ball a little more than they were last week against Dallas.
Ben, in spite of struggling, he did finish off with good stats. He finished off with 110 rating.
Yeah, and I think he had, 4 touchdowns?
Yep.
He was spreading the ball around, but the problem is, and this is something you brought up, is you look at their targets versus receptions. So you got guys like, Juju was going... He ended up getting what?
9 of 13.
Yeah, 9 of 13. Ebron, who, my feelings about Ebron are what they are.
2 of 6.
Yeah, 2 of 6. And they keep throwing the balls to these guys. I know that they're spreading it out because, as we've said before, they don't really have that elite caliber receiver that some other teams do.
Yeah, and they're trying to mix it up a little bit so that teams don't just cover Juju.
Right. You've got Juju, you've got Claypool. Could they be elite receivers one day? Yes. But they're still so young.
They're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, Claypool is a rookie. Juju's in his second year. It's going to take, 3-4 years for them to really find their footing and really see what they're going to be?
Yeah.
And the defense looked good.
Defense always plays well. Defense pretty much keeps in the game.
Well, and that's the problem, and that's why last week it was damn hard to watch because the Steelers could not stay on the field. The offense, rather. The defense is going to get tired. We know that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's going to be the problem in the long run. If they cannot keep the defense rested, they're going to get buried.
Yeah, well, that's what happened last week.
Yeah, and what I said to you before was, Joe Burrow, he won the Heisman Trophy, but he's a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
So he was giving some opportunities back to Pittsburgh when they blew their own.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had that one drive where they got the monster. Cincinnati gave them 2 15-yard penalties.
Yeah, they were giving them first downs through penalties, but you are going to have to earn it because when you go up against a veteran team,
yeah,
if you go up against a Phillip Rivers or a Drew Brees, they're not going to be making the mistakes that a Joe Burrow would because he's so young.
Yeah.
And therein
lies
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's sort of the frustration, that's sort of the part of the end score not really telling the tale. Yeah, it's 36, but it was kind of a Herculean task for them to get those 36 points.
Right, and how we were talking earlier, it was what? The 3 field goals that they got easily could have been touchdowns because the one they were given the ball on a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
With the strip of the punt return.
Yeah.
But they did what? 3 plays and kicked a field goal.
Pretty much. I mean, the first half, yeah, punt, touchdown, punt, touchdown, punt.
Yeah.
A lot of punting the ball away.
Yeah, and it's not just the fact that they're punting the ball away, but it's the fact that they're punting the ball away after 3 plays.
Yeah, a lot of them were really fast, like 3 plays, 9 yards, 1 minute, 4 seconds.
Exactly, and if the defense has just come off a long slug-it-out series, a minute's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
They really need to start being able to sustain drives more, which means they have to start converting on the third downs, which means they have to start getting back to the running game.
Yeah.
And that running game today is it was just sad.
Well, you and I have talked about it. We both, you love Connor as a person. You love his inspirational story. I'm sure he's a really great guy, but, everybody sort of had questions about whether he's an NFL level running back, and I just don't. Today certainly didn't show it.
Well, and exactly, the kid, from all accounts, he's a hell of a kid. Hell of a good kid. One of the most inspirational stories, he's a Western Pennsylvania boy, grew up in Erie, went to Pitt, stayed with the Steelers. But the fact is, you always did question, is he a starting NFL running back?
Yeah, and I just don't think so. I mean, again and again, it was just he could not get beyond 1 yard. And again, we're talking about the 2 6-1 Bengals.
Yeah.
And you can't pick up more than 1 yard on 8 different tries.
Exactly, and you can't blame it all on him. The offensive line was slipping, but at the same time, he's got to be able to make some moves.
Well, that's sort of it, right? Isn't that what separates? You're sort of able, I'm not asking for him to pull away and make a 40-yard run, but if you can't pick up more than 1 yard,
yeah,
on 8 tries, 10 tries, at a certain point, you kind of have to take responsibility for that.
I agree, and that's the biggest problem. Do I see him as maybe a second string running back? Yeah, I think he would be a great break to come in and relieve somebody.
Yeah.
But the fact remains, and this is going back to part of actually what makes the Steelers 9-0 probably the most impressive thing, is they don't have that elite caliber in basically anything other than the quarterback.
No, like you think about, Le'Veon Bell when he was in his prime and the things that he could do. That's a starting running back.
Right, or you look at, who would you say are the elite running backs right now? Obviously, Derrick Henry.
Oh, God.
Yeah. When Christian McCaffrey is healthy, that guy is one of the best.
Yeah.
But you don't really, and like I say, I'm not insulting James Conner by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but it is what it is, and it's, it's going to start potentially costing them, touchdowns or possibly even games as you get into the more difficult games and even into the playoffs.
Well, exactly. And like I said before, Week 10 against the Cincinnati Bengals isn't the AFC Championship game against the Indianapolis Colts or against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Or even Thanksgiving against the Ravens. Imagine if this was against the Ravens.
Ravens coming up in 2 weeks. They got to play Indianapolis after that.
Mm.
So, again, they play Buffalo later on in the season. And as shocked as I am to say this, Buffalo may in fact be the real deal.
I think Buffalo's doing great, especially coming from where they came from.
Yeah, and all they really added was Stephon Diggs, who had a great career in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Came to Buffalo, and he's showing why he was so good in Minnesota. He is really, really good.
Yeah, so I'm not looking forward to that game.
No, and then again, the constant, and this is going back to part of the joys of being a Steelers fan.
The playing down to or playing up to?
Yes, the trap games.
Oh, trap games.
Yeah, the trap games. Last week was a trap game, and look what happened. They almost lost.
This week was a trap game. They managed to pull it out.
Yeah, this week was a trap game, but with a little difference because
Alualu was back.
Yeah, Alualu was back. And at the same time, Dallas, even though they're Dallas right now, they still have a little more explosive offensive talent than Cincinnati does.
True.
Because Cincinnati's been without Joe Mixon for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He is what he is, but he can blow up.
Yeah.
Giovanni Bernard, I like him as a player. I like him as a person. He's not bad.
Mm.
But again, it goes back to that elite status versus, capable status, I'll call it.
Yeah. Exactly.
James Conner is more than capable of playing in the NFL, as he's proven.
Yeah.
But it's just, and this is the same, it can go with any position. Look at all the great backup quarterbacks that people have the utmost respect for. They couldn't have been a long-time starting quarterback. It takes a special breed.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, if the offense is struggling, which it is in some games, it'd be nice to have something else, If Ben is struggling to pass the ball, it would be nice to have some kind of run game that involves more than 3 yards.
Exactly. And now the other teams are looking at what happened today. Like, well, if the run game's not going to get off its feet, we can slide a linebacker over to cover the tight end and take a cornerback and have him focus more on Claypool or on Smith-Schuster.
Exactly.
And that's why the great teams were the balanced teams.
Yeah, and I feel
the Indy Colts back in the Peyton Manning days. They had Peyton Manning throwing to Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, but they also had Edgerrin James in the backfield, which meant they had to respect the running game because that guy was pretty good.
Well, that's it, I feel obviously defense is amazing this year.
Yes, this defense is one of the best defenses they've had in a long time.
Boswell had an ugly game last week, but I think I feel all right with special teams.
He's a capable kicker, but the problem is I think he gets in his own head. If he misses one, then everything goes to pot.
Oh yeah, he can have very wonky games, but I just don't feel that stressed out, whereas offense just sometimes drives me mad.
Well, that's and I even joked about it during the game when Cincinnati challenged the incomplete pass and they upheld it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, it's okay. They'll get the ball back in 3 plays." I was right.
You were right. Yes.
The Steelers went 3 and out and gave them the ball right back. Maybe a minute off the clock.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. Like, they're not. It's both things, right? Like, offense can't score a touchdown half the time and also can't even just eat off time off the clock.
Right, and that's the
Do
biggest...
what? At least one can. Okay, fine. Don't score a touchdown. At least take some time off.
Yeah, take 5 minutes and a couple of commercial breaks.
But yeah, you get into the ugly slumps where, yeah, they're 3 and done in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Then the defense has to come out for 5 or 6 minutes.
Exactly, and then the offense comes back for a minute, maybe a minute and a half, 3 and out, 3 and out, 6 and out, or a stupid turnover.
Yep.
And therein lies the problem, because football, everybody forgets, because everybody loves the explosive big plays like the Tampa Bay running back going 98 yards for a touchdown, or Kyler Murray slinging the ball to, I think it was DeAndre Hopkins that caught that game-winning touchdown.
Believe it was, yep.
That was a hell of a trade, wasn't it? The ghost of Bill O'Brien still will haunt everything.
He definitely is today.
And, but everybody likes that, but the fact of the matter is that football is won by controlling the ball.
Yeah.
Because you can only have so many of those explosive plays, because the defense is going to get tired eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
And if the offense is in a slump where they're only out there for 45 seconds to a minute of game time, that leaves a lot of potential for bad things to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And just the play calling on offense didn't feel very good. A lot of short dump passes and things. And I know Ben, he's coming off the elbow surgery, but he's shown that he can sling it. And frankly, those were a lot of times the more successful passes.
He bombed Deontay Johnson early on in the game.
And I think last week it was the longer passes that they had better luck with.
Yeah, because everybody was so focused on, looking at him like another old guy quarterback, but he's not. He still has a really strong arm.
Yeah, he can sling it, 40 yards if he needs to, but there's just, again, so many of these little tiny dump passes, 5 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards again.
Right. And those are fine if you're able to maintain the control of the football.
But they weren't. You'd be down, 3rd and 13, and they're, getting 4 yards, 3 yards, or then reverting to the 1 yard corner runs.
And, well, that's the thing, because if you are averaging 3 yards a play, you're going to constantly get a first down, but that's assuming you start at 1st and 10.
Yeah.
And if you all of a sudden are ending up 2nd and 12, 2nd and 15, 3rd and 15, your play calling is a lot more limited.
Yeah.
Than 3rd and 3. And that was the whole point of saying that they really need to get better at hanging on to the football.
It would be nice, because it would be nice to feel like they were really controlling the game, Last week they didn't so much win as the Cowboys lost. That's kind of been the theme.
That's the whole theme of the trap games.
Today felt, obviously they did put up, much better numbers, but again, it didn't feel good. Like you're watching the numbers go up, you're watching the plays, and it doesn't feel like they're really dominating the ball. It's sort of luck.
And they always say it's better to be lucky than good. Well, luck runs out eventually, so you're going to have to rely on skill.
Well, that's it, trap games, but, man, it would just be nice to see them play the kind of football they were playing a few weeks ago, where it really felt like things were clicking and they were dominating and really just, like they came in with a plan and they executed.
Well, that I would probably say like the first game against Cleveland, when they just completely
blew them out
them in every possible thing: offense, defense, special teams, game or ball control, turnovers, everything.
Yeah, whereas the last few games just been kind of ugly and confused and disjointed. And
I think that's what I think even some of the announcers were saying, that Ben was missing reads, guys weren't running the right routes. They look confused.
Yeah.
And a championship caliber team should not be looking confused in week 10.
Yeah, well, that's sort of it. It's just, I know they're tired. I know they've been going since week 5, but these are kind of the games you're supposed to be most likely to win, and you look at other teams that really feel like they're dominating, and you just don't see this sort of discombobulation from them.
Exactly.
The Saints, playing the Bucks, they came in and they absolutely dominated, or the Chiefs playing just about everyone. They come in and they play well on every side of the ball.
Exactly. And that's why, it's the complete teams that are the scariest. So when the Steelers are on, yeah, you have to watch out.
Mm-hmm.
But the past 2 weeks, the Steelers' offense has not been on. They've been playing good enough to win, and the defense has been playing Super Bowl caliber football.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? I think today, 0 for 13 on third down attempts for Cincinnati. Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was. They didn't convert a single one.
Yeah, and they had 13 third downs, didn't convert any of them. Just and another thing, many times that I get frustrated is seeing the Steelers take those stupid penalties.
Yes.
Illegal formation, whatever, it's only 5 yards. Right, but if you keep doing that, that 5 yards is going to turn a 2nd and 1 into a 2nd and 6.
They weren't, for them, and for, sort of how sometimes emotional these Bengals games get, it wasn't too bad today. They had 6 for 45 yards.
Right. It wasn't as bad as it could have been.
And nobody got into fisticuffs, so that's,
right.
Good.
For once, there were no punches thrown in a Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game.
There wasn't any spearing.
No spearing, no career-threatening injuries. Some people got banged up, but nothing major.
But yeah, it's, it can be frustrating.
And that's what it is. And that's... Did you ever wonder if maybe it would be better if you were a fan of a different team?
No, because I think every team does, has something, right? Every team has a brick wall that they can't get through. Every team has trap games.
Yeah.
Every team probably has that one guy who's both good and sabotages the team.
Oh, I don't know who you could possibly be referring to.
Well, not just him, but I mean, even other players.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think everybody goes through it.
But then if you look at, like Jets fans, I feel bad for because their franchise is so broken.
Yes.
So broken, and there's nothing anybody can do. Other than basically a complete and utter purge of all management and coaching staff.
Basically, yes.
Because let us not forget, back in the day, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Frank Gore has been one of the best running backs throughout the entirety of his career.
I know, I wanted to hire him away.
Yeah, they had talent.
They still have talent, but they're not using it.
Exactly. Why can't they win?
Well, because Adam Gase is not good.
Because Taco Chaser.
Yeah, he's also very strange.
And he's really not that great a coach.
Oh, God, no. Bring back Sexy Rexy!
But that's what I mean, like, would it be better sometimes to be a fan of, like, a middling team? Like, like Detroit or Denver this year. Because you go into a game, you may not really have these high expectations, so maybe in that way you're never really truly disappointed?
I don't know. I think every team always hopes, right? Like even Jets fans still hope that eventually they'll win one. Detroit fans still hope that they'll win some.
Yeah, Atlanta.
Good old Atlanta.
28-3.
Every game.
Oh man. But then again, and this is something you and I have talked about in the past, there's a lot of pressure to be the last undefeated team.
Yeah.
Because everybody is going to be giving you everything they have to be that team that ended the streak.
Exactly. Everybody wants to knock you off.
Yeah, especially if it's a divisional game.
Yes.
You know? I guarantee you, Cincinnati came in, they wanted to do it.
Yep.
And I'll guarantee you, Baltimore's going to come in wanting to do it if the Steelers are still undefeated after Jacksonville next week.
Hmm.
And Baltimore's not Cincinnati.
No.
No, Baltimore is terrifying.
Well, that's it. I'm not feeling good about that game at all.
Right now, no. We'll see how this week goes. We'll see what Baltimore can do tonight, because actually, as we're recording this, there's maybe 5 or so minutes before the kickoff of the Baltimore game.
What are the Patriots going to do?
They could fall down and Lamar Jackson could trip and break his ankle.
I'm not hopeful about that one either.
No, absolutely not, because that magic
Patriots
is gone.
are terrible now.
Yeah, the magic is over.
Exactly.
The dynasty is dead. I think even Belichick basically admitted that the dynasty was over.
You pretty much just have to hope for the turf monster at this point.
Pretty much. But now, actually, let's talk about something real quick that we talked about before, since we brought up the Patriots.
All right.
Let's go back a few years to the 18-1 season. And you brought up the point that made me really think about it, that did Belichick possibly grind that team too hard to get the perfect season so they were burnt out by the Super Bowl?
Well, that's sort of what I started to wonder.
And the more I think about it, that very well could be, because they weren't a young team, really. They had some young guys, but predominantly they were a bit older.
Yeah.
And they were so focused on the 16-0. So that posed the question to me. Would you rather have 16-0 and lose in the AFC Championship? Or would you rather have 13-3 and win the Super Bowl?
13-3, obviously.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. I know there's this mystique of the undefeated season, and how it doesn't really happen often.
Yeah.
You know, basically 2 times since we've gone to more stable scheduling. It was the Dolphins in 72, but they did the perfect season.
Mm-hmm.
What year was it that the Patriots did the 16-0? Was it 2007
I think?
or 8?
Yeah.
But, so the 16-0 season has already been done.
Yeah, it was 2007.
Okay. And that's when, Eli Patriot Killer Manning came in and said, I don't care if you're 18-0, you're not going home 19-0.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely right. And I think that was the biggest problem, is maybe they were just pushing so hard, focused solely on the 16-0, that they kind of forgot there's 3 more games to be played.
Well, that's it, because obviously once you get the 16-0, you can't stop then.
Yeah.
You're locked in. Like, you can't take a break after that.
Well, exactly. You'll get your 1 week break for getting the playoff bye.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if you've been grinding out for 8-9 weeks, that 1 week isn't really going to do a whole lot.
Yeah, that week they had, that season they had their bye week in week 10.
Yeah. All right, so they had the bye week in week 10, which means they went 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So they went 7 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
To get the 16-0. They took the first week off for the bye week.
Yeah.
And then they came back for the divisional playoffs, obviously won the AFC Championship, and got their asses kicked in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So eventually, at some point, you really got to... And I really hope that somebody in the Steelers organization is thinking the same thing. Saying, at some point, when do we sacrifice a game and give the starters some rest for the playoffs?
Well, that's it. Like, it's been fun, but they've set the Steelers franchise record now. I mean, they set it last week, I think, with 8-0, and now they're 9.
No Steelers team in history had ever started off 8-0. The last time anyone went 7-0 was 1978, when they won Super Bowl 13 against the Cowboys.
Yeah, so at this point, I start to care less.
Right. Now it actually is becoming even more stressful because we don't know if the Steelers are going to constantly take it seriously. And what happens if you get a dick team, Cincinnati, I'm kind of looking in your general direction, that's going to say, well, we might not beat them, but at least we'll take out their quarterback.
Well, that's it. It's, but it's also like, obviously the game against the Ravens still matters. They have to keep everybody in and win that one.
Right.
The game against the Bills still kind of matters, because if you can knock them anywhere lower in the playoffs, that would be nice.
Exactly. And then you got the Colts, who...
They're still in playoff contention.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers, is still terrifying.
So if you can knock them down again, that's good. So there's
force them to play a harder team, like a higher, lower-ranked team, in the possibility of them getting knocked out.
And even though the last game is against the Browns, I mean, if the Browns keep winning, you have to play that game because you've got to knock them down too.
Exactly, because that could be the difference between the Browns getting a shot in the playoffs and somebody else getting a shot in the playoffs.
So right now it's basically the Jaguars games could be a throwaway, the Washington game could be a throwaway, and maybe the second game against the Bengals could be a throwaway.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because if you look at the schedule, it actually weirdly goes in like a high-low week. You got Jacksonville, then Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then it's
Washington.
Who's after Baltimore? Is that Washington?
Yep.
So it's Washington, then Indianapolis, then
then Bills.
Oh, that's right. Then Buffalo, then Cincinnati.
Yep. Then Colts, then Browns.
Yeah, then Indianapolis, and they end it with the Browns in... I can't remember where. Pittsburgh, I can't remember.
First Energy, so now they're playing in Ohio.
In Cleveland.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. So at some point, you really are going to have to sit there and say, what game do we want to start sitting people? And I pitched this idea to you about kind of the rotating rest system.
Yeah.
Because they're going to need it. They've been going strong since week 5. I mean, yeah, it's only week 10 now, but think about week 17. That's going to be 12 straight weeks of playing football with people that want to destroy you because you're undefeated.
Well, that's it, and some of the guys have been in and out with injuries. You don't want them to be out permanently with injuries.
Well, exactly. It was nice to see Derek Watt back on the field. He wasn't used as much as I was hoping, which is partially why the running game wasn't doing very well.
Yeah, Alualu obviously was huge coming back, but, you don't want him to get hurt again.
Right, you don't want him to get hurt again. We're going to need him in the playoffs. It'd be nice to see Hilton come back.
Yeah.
It was good to see DeCastro back in the lineup.
So it's just, I don't really care if they beat Washington. I don't really care if they beat the Bengals again. I don't really care if.
If they beat Jacksonville.
No.
I do care that they beat Baltimore because of the rivalry.
Yeah, and because it's at home.
Right. I do care that they beat Buffalo because that has a lot of playoff implications.
Yeah, so those are the games that you can't sit anybody. But yeah, I don't care if next week the undefeated thing comes to an end.
Yeah, I wouldn't care.
It's been fun, but whatever at this point, I don't want to see Ben get, he seemed to be favoring his elbow a little bit today. I don't want him to be out again because, dear Lord, going into the playoffs.
I saw the play that happened. It was when there was the busted snap and he picked up and ran it back to the line of scrimmage. When he came down, he landed hard on his elbow.
Yeah, so you and I talked about this. You get 60-0 and then you go into the playoffs with Mason Rudolph.
Oh, God.
Yeah. At that point, you might as well just forfeit. I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, no, there's no sorry. The guy's not an NFL-caliber quarterback.
Nobody enjoys seeing Mason Rudolph football.
No, nobody at all.
So, yeah, at that point, yay, we have a 16-0 season, and we turfed our quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah, how terrible would that be? Yeah, they went 16-0 and finished the season 16-1.
Exactly. They got blown out the first game of the playoffs because it was Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, it was Mason Rudolph and the fact that half the team was basically crippled.
Exactly, so...
But now that the guys are starting to come back, we need to make sure that they stay healthy, and that, I think, is going to be the key.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I hope that, the Steelers maybe start accepting that, they don't have to go for the perfect 16-0 or especially the perfect, 18-0 or whatever.
I think to get the perfect season be 19-0.
Yeah, because they extended the season. So,
Well, no, because they expanded the playoffs, but I think it's next year they go to the 17 game season, which means perfect season would be 20-0.
yeah, so it's just, yeah, it is, whatever, but they're going to have to start making those decisions obviously quickly because next week is Jacksonville, one of the last, irrelevant games that they have on schedule.
Right, exactly. Not to say that you have the right as a football team to overlook any other football team,
Yeah.
but it's irrelevant as far as playoff implications are concerned.
Yeah.
Right now, what is Jacksonville's motivation? Hey, we're sitting here 1-8. Let's go beat the hell out of the 9-0 Steelers.
Yeah.
That's their motivation, and that's some pretty strong motivation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the Jaguars then finish the season 2-14, they'd be like, yeah, but one of those two.
Exactly. You knocked off the undefeated Steelers.
Exactly. You took down the 9-0 Steelers.
But whatever. Week 12 is far more consequential.
Yeah, for the playoffs, because lest we not forget, Baltimore is still right there in the playoff hunt.
Yep, they're right behind.
And if the Steelers start hitting a skid because the defense got exhausted, Baltimore could just right past them. They have that capability.
Well, that's it, so you have to sort of be careful, I guess, about what games you maybe drop or whatever,
And I wouldn't even say purposely tank them. I would just say start selectively sitting people for at least, a half or two.
Well, that's it. Like, maybe Alu doesn't start the next game.
Exactly. Or, put him in for the first quarter and then, why don't you come down, have a seat for the second quarter, maybe the first half of the third quarter.
Yeah.
Get a couple more reps in near the end of the game on third down when you know it's a pass rush situation. But
exactly.
Getting a guy like him back and then losing him, it's like, poor Carolina. They get Christian McCaffrey back, and immediately he gets hurt.
Well, that's it, and it does feel like they kind of rushed Aluelo back for this game.
I think so.
Because he didn't practice, he couldn't practice at all on Wednesday, and then suddenly on Friday, oh yeah, he's back.
Yeah, because I don't know, it frightens me because he is a much better player than a lot of people want to give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why the Steelers pretty much weren't blown out today is because he was back. I mean, that he wasn't in for the Cowboys, then that's, I think that hurt them a lot.
Yeah, and, now Cam's got his playing buddy back.
Yeah.
And they can just continue to collapse the offensive line.
Exactly.
And, like I say, there's not really too many parts of the defense that I look at with concern.
No.
Not going to lie, I thought for sure that when Devin Bush went down, that was it.
That is obviously really unfortunate,
Yeah.
He was... Because they sort of formed pairs, he and TJ were such a good pair.
They were, and they form a bond, they really get to know how each other plays, and then he goes down with a very serious... Even though at the time it didn't look real serious because of the way he fell.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it was a season-ending injury.
Well, that's it, so he's not even coming back for the playoffs.
No, he cannot come back. That's it.
So that really sucks.
And then when Robert Spillane comes in, and I'm thinking to myself, oh God, who is this poor kid?
Ish.
And then that poor kid came out and just started playing some pretty inspired football.
Yeah, he's been playing lights out.
Yeah, I mean, he even admits it, he's not the greatest in the pass coverage. But he's good. Like I say, his first ever interception and touchdown.
Well, that's it. I mean, I couldn't really ask for anything more from a replacement, you know?
Because he's actually doing more. Because when you look at a replacement like that, you're essentially asking them to not really mess up.
Yeah.
But he's not just not messing up. He's playing really well. He's making plays.
Well, that's it, so yeah.
He sacked Burrow tonight.
Yes, he did.
He was right there when Adaney caused the fumble on the punt return.
Yeah.
Him and I always want to call him DJ to keep with the theme, but Derek Watt was in on that too.
Yeah.
So he's making plays, and he's doing really good. And then I saw Avery Williamson came in a couple of plays.
Yeah, so,
He was all smiles.
Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, to go from the 0-9 New York Jets to a possible, to basically a legitimate Super Bowl contender in one fell swoop.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And he's going to come in and he is going to play some pretty good football, I think, because what does he have to lose at this point?
Exactly.
He was playing good football on a crap team. Now he's going to be playing really good football on a good team.
Yeah.
And there's always that pride because he's like, hey, I may only get 8 games as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make the most out of those 8 games.
Well, that's it. I don't know what his contract was, but I think it was only for the year.
Yeah, it might just be to finish out the year with an option for the next year.
Yeah.
But that's one thing you and I have learned when looking at contracts. It is literally impossible to figure out how much people get paid in an NFL contract.
Oh, God, yes.
It can't be done.
Nope.
You need a literal PhD dissertation and probably a supercomputer to actually and accurately calculate how much somebody's salary is in the NFL.
And a Ouija board.
Well, exactly. A Ouija board to contact the ghost of Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi to ask them.
True.
But that's... Now, every team in every sport, their fans after a game are going to have these conversations, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just so happens that for us it's about the Steelers, but I guarantee you that somewhere right now in Western New York, some Buffalo Bills fans are sitting there dissecting the game, what went wrong, how we could have won, what we got to do next week.
I was going to say, unless you're a Chiefs fan, in which case it's easy street.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. We'll see what happens when they get into the playoffs.
Damnable Mahomes and Reed.
Yeah, damnable, really good Patrick Mahomes, and I would say Le'Veon Bell, but he's not going to make a difference. We all know that.
No, it's not him, but, you and I joked about it, that pretty much is immediately as soon as the prior evil empire over in Foxborough was, dispatched, it was immediately replaced by a new quarterback, coach duo.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, I'm not mad at it because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, at least as of right now, are a lot less punchable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like Andy Reid. I don't really follow Mahomes that much, but he seems like a nice guy.
He seems, for now, like he's got his head screwed on straight. He's staying humble as best he can,
It's more just that I don't want another dynasty.
Well, there's the problem. Remember how many weeks ago we had our Dynasties podcast?
Exactly.
And how we mistakenly thought that San Francisco would be a dynasty?
You talk bad about Jimmy Jesus.
Hey, you know what? We'll see what happens, but I did not see... I will tell you this, and this is something I want to do next week with you, is do a 3/4 season report if you want to.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And sit there and think about what is happening and did we see it coming? And the chances are I did not see the Steelers sitting at 9-0.
No.
I did not see the Jets sitting at 0-9.
Yeah, I kind of saw that one coming.
I mean, I could see it, but I wasn't sitting there going, they're not going to win a damn game. I figured, they'll be like 3-13, 4-12, scrape by.
Yeah.
And do just enough to not get the first pick in true Jets fashion.
Oh, they'll win their last game just to screw themselves out of it.
Somehow they'll go on a hot streak at the end and win 3 of their last 5.
Exactly.
And take themselves right out of contention for Herbert. Or not Herbert,
Lawrence.
That's it, Trevor Lawrence.
What's the point?
I don't know.
They're just going to ruin him.
Exactly. How many potentially great quarterbacks have been ruined by crap teams because they ended up with the first round pick?
Yeah.
Mitchell Trubisky.
I'm sorry. Mayfield, I don't think he's it.
No, I don't think so. I mean...
And pretty much every single other previous Browns quarterback.
Hey, you do not talk down to Tim Couch.
Yeah, exactly. Or Johnny Football.
Yeah, God, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, doing the Heisman Trophy proud, he did.
Exactly.
He won that, didn't he?
Yeah, I did.
Well, all right. That just shows how little that means. But it actually is. It is odd because as I was watching the game, the announcers were talking about the fact that in the AFC North, 3 of the 4 starting quarterbacks in the division have won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, because Ben didn't.
Yeah, Ben didn't. I don't think he was even a finalist because he went to a much smaller Division I school.
Yeah.
But Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. Baker Mayfield won the Heisman. Obviously, Joe Burrow won it most recently.
Yeah.
And the announcer, I can't remember who the other one was. It was Jonathan Vilma as the color commentator. But I can't remember who was doing play-by-play. That's how little he actually means in the grand scheme of life. But he had just got through talking about how Spillane's grandfather won the Heisman Trophy in 1953, I think it was. Actually, it would have been before that. A lot before that. Because 53 is when Paul Hornung won it, but he won the Heisman, played a year for the Steelers as a fullback. Then he joined them, and then he went to the military, got a back injury, and his football career came to an end. And just as he finished telling that story, Robert Spillane, the grandson of a Heisman Trophy winner, goes out and sacks the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. Well, early predictions for next week.
I think Jacksonville might take it.
Against the Steelers, you think?
I think so. I think, for one, if these problems persist, I think they're not as bad a team as their record shows.
Well, and you have to look at what was it with Gilbert.
Yeah.
What was the experience that Gilbert had? Nothing? Oh, well, look at what he almost did to the Steelers.
Well, that was it, right? The trap games, you can't take any of these, at face value and just sort of go, ho, ho, ho.
Exactly. So, let's say the guard that Minshew can't start. It's going to be Luton again.
Yeah. He almost beat Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. He hung with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, they eked by with 4 points.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers barely beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. That should not have happened. That should have been a 30-point blowout.
Exactly.
But Green Bay had to play, I think they had to play from behind.
Yeah, they were kind of struggling a lot, I think, in that game.
Yeah, but just the fact of the matter is, Green Bay was playing from behind against Jacksonville.
Well, that's it, so I don't take any of these games for granted.
You can't. You cannot, because the minute you do is the minute badness happens.
And if it happens, it happens at this point, as long as none of our guys get,
exactly. As long as nobody gets hurt.
That's really all I care about anymore at this point for that game.
Yeah, especially the trap games.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wouldn't be bad for the Steelers to lose to Jacksonville, because then they can go into Baltimore on a short week and not have to worry about Baltimore coming at them with the fury of 1,000 dying suns to end the 10-0 streak.
Well, that's it, So yeah, if it happens, whatever at this point.
Yeah, it's like, we beat the 9-1 Steelers doesn't have the same oomph that we beat the 10-0 Steelers does.
Exactly.
But, again, you can't rule anything out.
No.
But there you go. I feel a little better having got all that off my chest.
Yeah.
My jaw did hurt by the end of the game from clenching it. Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens next week.
Yep.
All right. Parting thoughts, parting wisdom. What do you got for football-wise?
I'm glad we survived.
And that's the theme of this all again. You survived another week, sports fans. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, the Steelers are 9-0. Yeah, the Steelers are 9-0, but good God, there's a lot more gray hairs in the city of Pittsburgh and in the Steelers Nation than there were about 4 hours ago.
The new cardiac kids.
Oh, my God. Pittsburgh Steelers, sponsored by Pepto-Bismol. We'll get rid of that ulcer for you.
Oh, my hearty heart.
Exactly. My poor little hearty heart.
Oh.
But on that horrifyingly haunting note, we're going to wrap this up here. Just wanted to get this out. The guttural reaction as sports fans for a team that won, and yet you're still just kind of about it. So, for everybody here at the Carnival, I am Zach. Rye, hope you
Goodbye.
What's that?
Goodbye.
Here you go. Goodbye. Good luck. Good night. And join us next week, and we're probably going to be talking more football.
Hell yeah.